Scientific ways to solve problems. Since one definition of research is the scientific ways to solve issues, to solve problems, particularly in social sciences, we are focusing on solving our issues and problems, right? So we would just like to discuss that what are those scientific ways which are used within research to solve problems. And as we know that within social sciences, the starting point of our research is a problem. Without problem, there is no research. And when there is no problem, there is no research, okay? So we would like to know that what are the scientific ways to solve our problems, right? But before discussing the scientific ways to solve problem, we must know that what are non-scientific ways which can also be applied to solve problems, but these are not based on research, right? So for example, we may be solving our problems with tenacity. Tenacity when we are, clinging to a particular, a way of solving problem. Like that's the old tradition of doing things, right? The tradition or the conserving way of those conservative ways of solving problems. They may be one non-scientific way to solve problem, right? When we are following a tradition, that tradition is taught to us by our elders, right? And we are using that to solve problem. But that could be one way to solve problem, but it is not scientific, right? Then we may be solving our problems with our intuition, with our just this implicit knowledge, right? And the implicit knowledge of the society, for example, or we may be just on the basis of our sixth sense, just for example, right? So we may be solving our issues, and we may be using our intuition for solving our problem, but that is a non-scientific way to solve problem. And then we may also be solving our issues, our problems with authority, because somebody said so, somebody who was in authority, maybe our boss, maybe our principal, or the headmaster of the school, right? So just in order to obey that order given by the authority may also be solving our problem, but that is not scientific, that is non-scientific, right? And we are using that non-scientific way to solve our problem. Another example is the rationalistic way of solving problem non-scientifically. Like for example, when we are using some rationale, it's not complete science, but it is just one rationale. So, and we are using that rationale to solve our problem, but non-scientifically. Like for example, if we say that Aslam is obese and Aslam is unfit, right? So, since Aslam is obese, right? He's a fat guy, right? And he's unfit. So that may be true, that may be solving one problem, but this is non-scientific, because Aslam may be unfit for let's say running, but Aslam may be fit for wrestling, right? He may be a good wrestler, right? So we have these non-scientific ways to solve our problem, and we may be using our own experience, right? Since, like for example, you are a principal, you want to deal your teachers with a very polite manner, right? And because you have been doing that, right, and you think that polite manner is one way to solve problem, you are not actually a strict administrator, right? So that is your experience, and you may be solving your problem through these non-scientific ways. Like you may be using tenacity, you may be using your intuition, you may be using your authority, or your rationalistic way, or your experience in order to solve your problem. But remember that these are non-scientific ways to solve your problem. We have, within research, we have scientific ways to solve our problems. And what are those scientific ways to solve problems? Let me just give you the steps involved in scientific ways, or those points which would make our solution scientific, right? So the first step is the development of the problem. You come across a problem. Now you are required to develop that problem. You are required to explore that problem in and out, right? With in-depth analysis. You must be able to define that problem with analogies, with examples, and with in the light of maybe some already existing literature, right? So the first step is that you would fully develop the problem. That is step one in scientific way to solve a problem. And the second is that you would form a hypothesis. Since you have explored the problem thoroughly, you have developed the problem, you must be able to now come up with a tentative answer, right? A suggested answer, which is yet to be verified, right? So that is called hypothesis. So you would form hypothesis. That is step two in scientific ways to analyze and solve a problem. And your step three would be that you would very systematically, you would collect data. You would be using a very standardized data collection tool, maybe a questionnaire or maybe an observation sheet, or maybe you may be conducting a very systematic sort of interview, or you may be systematically using some tools or some instruments. That is your step three, the collection of data. You would gather data because you need data, and data are basically facts. Data are, figures. Data are some, set of knowledge, okay? So you would collect them, that is called data. You would gather data, and then you would analyze that data very systematically, right? So the analysis of data, and then on the basis of your analysis, you would interpret the data, right? So you are actually doing it empirically. You are using, data for evaluating a problem. And then on the basis of your analysis of your data and interpretation of your data, you would conclude, and your conclusion would be, generalizable, okay? So that is the last step of your scientific way to solve problem, right? So you are starting with the development of the problem, then you are going further, you are forming a hypothesis, then in order to prove your hypothesis, you are collecting data, and then on the basis of your data, collected systematically, analyzed systematically, and then interpreted systematically, you are concluding. And that conclusion would be the scientific solution to a problem. And that is the whole crux of research, because in research, we are concerned with these steps, and research is the scientific way to solve a problem.